I never thought I'd be the kind of man telling strangers on the internet about how my wife betrayed me. For 15 years, I believed we had a strong marriage. We met when we were just kids in college. She was the shy girl in my accounting class, always sitting in the back row with her hair covering her face. I was the awkward guy who could barely speak in front of people, but somehow we found each other. We dated for 4 years before getting married, and back then, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. We built a quiet life together, bought a small house in a peaceful neighborhood, adopted 2 rescue dogs, and dreamed about having kids someday. Every Sunday, we'd sit by the porch with coffee, talking about growing old together and watching our future grandkids play on the lawn. She was my best friend, my family, my everything. That's why when she told me she was going to her friend's bachelorette party last weekend, I didn't even think twice. I helped her choose her dress, told her to have fun, and even drove her to her friend's place so she could carpool with the other bridesmaids. I kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, and went back home to watch some old action movies alone on the couch with our dogs sleeping beside me. It was a normal Friday night, and I had no idea that by the next morning, my life would never be the same again. The next day, she came home acting strange. Her eyes looked tired, and she avoided my gaze. When I asked her how the party went, she forced a smile and said it was fine, that they drank too much and danced all night. I believed her at first, but then I noticed she didn't kiss me like she usually did. She didn't tell me funny stories about her friends being drunk or show me the pictures she usually took. Something felt off deep inside me, but I tried to brush it away. But my gut wouldn't let me sleep that night. While she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. And what I saw shattered me completely. Messages, photos, and confessions about a night that she would regret for the rest of her life. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through her phone. I could hear the water running in the bathroom, her humming softly like nothing had happened. But on that small screen, my entire world was falling apart. The messages were from one of her bridesmaid friends. They were talking about what happened at the club after the party dinner. My wife wrote about how drunk she was, how she danced with a random guy she met near the bar, and how it all just happened. The worst part was reading her words, seeing her say she felt alive again, like she was 21 with no responsibilities. It felt like someone was stabbing my chest over and over, each word cutting deeper than the last. I put the phone down before she came out of the shower. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there on the edge of the bed staring at the floor. When she stepped out, wrapped in her towel with steam following behind her, she looked at me with those same eyes that used to make me feel safe. But now I felt nothing but pain. She asked if I was okay, and I forced a nod, telling her I was just tired. Deep inside, my mind was screaming with questions. How could she do this to me? Why wasn't I enough after all these years? Was our marriage just a burden to her now? That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him. I imagined her laughing, touching his arm, whispering words she used to whisper to me. I kept thinking about all the nights I stayed late at work to give her a better life. About how I skipped vacations so we could save up for her dream kitchen renovation. About how I thought we were a team, that we were building something unbreakable together. But clearly, she didn't feel the same way. I wanted to confront her right then and there. I wanted to scream and ask her why she destroyed our family for a night she couldn't even remember properly. But I didn't. I needed to know the whole truth before I faced her. I needed to understand what really happened that night at the bachelorette party. Because deep inside, a small part of me still hoped it was a mistake, that maybe I was reading it wrong. But my gut told me there was more darkness hiding in her secrets, and I was about to find out soon enough. The next morning, I woke up before her. I sat in the kitchen staring at the cold coffee in my cup, thinking about every memory we had built in this house. The first time we painted the living room together and accidentally splashed beige paint all over the couch. The nights we sat by the window during thunderstorms, holding each other close because she was scared of lightning. All those memories felt tainted now, like someone threw mud over the happiest photos in my mind. I knew I couldn't just ignore what I saw on her phone, but I didn't know how to bring it up without breaking completely. Later that day, I texted her friend, the bride-to-be, under the excuse of checking on party plans. She replied casually, telling me the party was wild and everyone got so drunk. I tried asking if my wife seemed okay during the night, pretending I was worried about her hangover. Her friend said, "Yeah, she was fine. She disappeared for a bit with some guy she met at the club, but we thought she just needed air or something. She seemed really happy later." My chest tightened as I read those words. Disappeared for a bit. With some guy. Happy later. Each phrase was like pouring salt on a fresh wound. The dogs sat by my feet, looking up at me with confusion as if they sensed my sadness. I reached down to pet them, feeling tears burn the corners of my eyes. For them, nothing had changed. For me, everything had shattered. I kept thinking about how she came home that morning and climbed into bed beside me, her skin still smelling of cheap club perfume and sweat. I wondered if she thought about him while lying next to me, or if she just pretended like nothing happened, believing I would never find out. That afternoon, while she was taking a nap, I sat in the living room scrolling through old photos on my phone. Pictures of our wedding day, her wearing that simple white gown with lace sleeves, smiling so big it made her eyes disappear. Pictures of our trip to the mountains, when we got caught in the rain and danced like teenagers. I wondered where that woman went. Was she ever really mine? Or was she always someone searching for more, for excitement I could never give her? I felt anger mixing with my sadness. I wanted to know every detail. Who was he? Did she know him before that night? Was it really just meaningless? Because to me, it wasn't meaningless at all. It was the moment she chose to throw away everything we built together, and my heart wasn't ready to accept that yet. The next day, I decided I couldn't keep living in confusion. I needed to hear the truth from her mouth, no matter how much it would hurt. I spent the entire morning pacing around the living room, my mind filled with flashes of her laughing with him, dancing under club lights, her hands touching someone else like they used to touch me. I kept telling myself maybe she would confess if I gave her a chance. Maybe there was a reason behind what she did, something I could understand, even if I couldn't forgive it. When she woke up, she walked into the kitchen wearing her soft gray robe and tied her hair up messily. She looked tired, unaware that my heart was about to explode from the tension building inside me. She smiled at me and asked if I wanted breakfast. That simple question made me feel sick. How could she act so normal? How could she stand there pretending like she hadn't broken our marriage for a single night that meant nothing to her but meant everything to me? I told her we needed to talk. The way her face fell made my stomach twist even more. She sat down opposite me at the table, her hands trembling as she held her mug. I asked her if there was anything she wanted to tell me about the bachelorette party. At first, she shook her head, avoiding my eyes, pretending she didn't understand. But then, tears started filling her eyes. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "I made a mistake." Hearing those words felt like being punched straight in the chest. I asked her who he was, but she just cried harder and said she didn't know him, that it was just a random guy at the club. She said they were drinking and everyone was having fun, and he started flirting with her. She said she felt flattered after so long, after feeling invisible as a wife and as a woman. My hands clenched into fists as she spoke. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 15 years together, and she threw it away for some stranger she didn't even know. She tried reaching out to hold my hand, but I pulled away. The betrayal felt too raw to let her touch me. She cried, saying she was drunk, that it just happened, that she didn't even think about it until it was over. Her voice cracked when she said, "I still love you. Please don't leave me." But in my mind, all I could see was her body with his, her smile for him, and the feeling that everything I loved had been taken away in one careless, selfish night. I sat there in silence, staring at her tear-streaked face. My mind was screaming with pain and betrayal, but before I could gather my thoughts to respond, her phone buzzed on the table between us. She quickly reached for it, her hands shaking. I saw the name flash on the screen. It wasn't saved as a contact, just an unsaved number, but my gut twisted instantly. She silenced it without even reading the message. That small act made my heart pound harder in my chest. Something wasn't right. I asked her who it was. She shook her head and said, No one, probably spam. But her voice cracked, and she wouldn't look me in the eyes. I grabbed the phone before she could lock it and open the message. My hands went cold as I read it. It was from him. The random guy from the club. He wrote, "Hey beautiful. I can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again?" I felt my stomach turn, like I might throw up right there at the table. She lunged forward, trying to grab the phone back, crying, telling me it wasn't what I thought. But it was exactly what I thought. This wasn't just a meaningless drunk mistake. He had her number. They were still talking. I stood up so quickly the chair fell backward, the dogs barking at the sudden noise. She fell to her knees, grabbing onto my hand, crying harder than I had ever seen her cry. She kept saying she was sorry, that she didn't mean for this to happen, that she didn't want him, that she loved me. But all I could hear was his words repeating in my head. When can I see you again? That wasn't a one-night stand. That was a man who thought he still had a chance with my wife. I pulled my hand away and stepped back, my entire body trembling. I asked her how long this had been going on. At first, she said it was just that night, but when I pressed her, when I asked her to swear on everything she loved, she broke down completely. Between sobs, she admitted he had been texting her since that night, that he found her on Instagram, that she replied a few times because she didn't know how to tell him to stop. She kept saying she didn't want him, that she never met him again. But in my mind, all I saw was her betrayal deepening. My heart felt like it was being ripped apart piece by piece. I realized then that this wasn't just about one night anymore. This was about trust that could never be rebuilt, about a marriage falling apart from secrets that kept getting darker every time I pulled back another layer. I felt my entire body go numb as she sobbed on the kitchen floor. The woman I loved for 15 years, the woman I thought would be my forever, was now a stranger begging me to forgive something I could never forget. She kept repeating that she didn't meet him again, that it was only messages, and she planned to block him but didn't know how to explain it all without losing me. Her words felt empty, echoing around my head like broken promises. I told her I needed air. I walked out the front door without looking back, feeling the morning sun on my face, but it felt cold and harsh. I sat on the porch steps, staring at the quiet street, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. The dogs came out and sat beside me, pressing their heads against my legs as if they knew I was breaking. Tears rolled down my cheeks before I could stop them. I thought about how hard I worked to build this life, how much I sacrificed to give her everything she wanted. And in the end, none of it mattered. A stranger in a club was more exciting than her husband who loved her with every part of his being. After what felt like hours, I walked back inside. She was still on the floor, her eyes swollen from crying. I told her I saw no future for us. I couldn't live every day wondering if she was thinking about him or someone else. I couldn't pretend our love was unbreakable when she had already broken it for a few stolen moments. Her face crumpled in pain as she realized I was serious. She started begging, promising therapy, church counseling, anything to save our marriage. But my heart had already shut down. As I turned to leave the room, her phone buzzed again. She didn't move to pick it up this time. I walked over and saw it was him calling. Something in me snapped. I answered the call silently, and on the other end, I heard his voice saying, "Hey, baby, why aren't you replying today?" My chest tightened with anger. Before I could speak, he continued, "You know, you left your earring in my car that night. If your husband finds it, just say it's from your friend's place." I didn't respond. I hung up and placed the phone on the table. She looked at me in horror, realizing I heard every word. In that moment, everything went quiet in my mind. There was no more confusion or pain, only clarity. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice she made, again and again. And I knew then that walking away was the only way to save what little dignity I had left. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, grabbed a small duffel bag, and started packing my clothes. I didn't take much, just what I needed for the week. I didn't care about my shirts hanging in the closet or the shoes lined up neatly by the wall. All those things felt meaningless now. As I zipped up the bag, she came running in, her face pale and broken. She kept asking where I was going, begging me not to leave her. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized I didn't even recognize the person standing in front of me anymore. Her betrayal had changed everything between us forever. She fell to her knees, clutching the edge of the bed, sobbing so hard her entire body shook. She promised she would cut off all contact with him, that she would do anything to fix what she had done. But deep down, I knew some things couldn't be fixed. Love without trust was nothing but an empty shell, and I didn't want to live the rest of my life trapped in that emptiness. I walked out of the room, down the stairs, and into the living room where our 2 dogs were waiting. Their tails wagged as they looked up at me with innocent eyes. I crouched down to hug them, whispering that I'd be back for them soon. I couldn't take them with me yet, but I knew one day I would. As I stood up, she grabbed my arm one last time. Her tears fell onto my sleeve as she whispered, "I love you. Please don't leave." I looked at her and felt nothing but sadness. I told her, "I loved you too, more than anything. But love isn't enough when there's no honesty." I walked out the door, feeling the heavy summer air on my face. I didn't know where I was going or what my life would look like now. All I knew was that I needed to heal, to find myself again without the lies and betrayal weighing me down every day. As I drove away, I thought about the years we spent together. I wouldn't erase them. They were part of my life, part of who I became. But I also knew those years were gone now, and it was time to build a new life for myself. If there's one thing I've learned from this, it's that betrayal cuts deeper than any wound. But walking away from someone who doesn't value your loyalty is the first step towards real peace. And maybe one day, when the pain finally fades, I'll find someone who knows how to hold love with both hands without ever letting it slip away.